Hey, I'm Callum from Leho and welcome back to Come Pack With Us.
Hi, I'm Brian Riley. I'm the founder of Life Kitchen, a multi-award winning organisation that does cookery classes for cancer patients.
So I guess we'll start with, can you tell us a little bit about your journey?
It's been a really strange journey for me. So my mother was diagnosed with cancer when I was 18. She passed away when I was 20. And the last thing in her life was she lost her sense of taste from the cancer treatment. And there was a huge part of the last year of her life where she was disconnected from eating. And it was a really miserable time for her. You know, not only was the cancer bad enough, not losing the hair, it was losing her sense of taste and enjoyment of food. So, fast forward after she died a few years, and I got drunk and tweeted saying I wanted to do a cookery class for cancer patients. And it went viral, and a few days later I was on the Radio 4 Today programme to 10 million people announcing the idea. And my life changed very suddenly overnight, and that was 5 years ago.
Wow, amazing way to get into it. So what makes cooking with your Life Kitchen recipes different, and how do the cooking workshops work?
It's a really unique process. So Life Kitchen isn't about nutrition. Everyone thinks, cancer, you need to be eating well. Of course you need to be eating well. But one of the biggest things was enjoyment. If you don't enjoy your food, if you're not connected to it, if you're not bringing yourself together with family and friends and tasting with people, is it really enjoyable at all? So I started Life Kitchen with a guy called Professor Barry Smith, who's a sensory scientist, and he's the world leader in it. And what was really incredible is I found him on a random podcast as I was starting Life Kitchen. It was like perfect worlds collide. And we developed a series of recipes that used umami and lots of other different ways that our taste buds work to kind of enhance the recipes we were making. And we've kind of gone on to help thousands of people across the world with the recipes, including at our 2 cookery schools.
Wow. That's really interesting, how you come up with the ideas of the recipes to use then, because I guess these flavours have to be quite more flavoursome.
Yeah, more flavoursome is a simplified way of doing it. I guess it's about the kind of the science behind it and how you pair things together. Like there's some really unique things that I sound really clever when I talk about them, but it's actually just the scientists who tell me, and I just distill that information down, but it makes me look really good.
Fair enough.
And yeah, it's basically a mixture of science, food, and community. And that's what's really important as well. Life Kitchen works because it's barely about cancer at all. It's about food, it's about people, it's about connecting. Sure. And I think that's, that's really important. Food is often elitist. People look at food and good food is seen as this really big thing. But actually it can be accessible to all, and a normal cookery class would cost you £175 per person. Life Kitchen's always been free and will always be free.
Oh, wow, that's great. Okay, yeah, because food and cooking is such a good way, and that kind of leads me on to my next question actually about community. Because community build is really important nowadays. It gives people and brands like us, Leho, a chance to give people an opportunity to connect on a personal level. So how did you manage to build that community?
It was kind of accidental. When you create something that has a cause and is worth something, people back it immediately. Sure. My first cookery class, it so happened it was at River Cottage with Hugh Fernley-Whittenstall, co-hosted by Sue Perkins, with 40 guests, 2 newspapers, 2 TV channels, and 2 journalists.
Scary.
I threw myself in at the deep end, weeks after I came up with the idea, and it was absolutely crazy. But that meant very suddenly we had this outreach to millions of people, and people were in their homes living with this kind of isolation of, it's not the most important thing losing my taste, survivorship is. And suddenly we had this whole thing open up around the world of people were like, oh, it's not just me. And they knew there was other people out there who had lost their sense of taste, because they felt like it was a really minor part of, surviving.
Sure, yeah.
But what it really did is it brought those people to us quite immediately, which was scary, because I never set out to have that.
Yeah, so it's reached like a global level.
My book was a number 4 bestseller in Britain, but it also was available around the world.
Wow.
And when COVID happened, we had this cookbook. I'm technically one of the world experts in what I do, which is absolutely wild. I would never count myself as that. Yeah. And if you know me, I don't think you would either. But basically, we wrote this book called Taste and Flavour for COVID taste loss that we gave away for free. And it ended up doing 2.8 billion media hits globally.
2.8 billion?
Yeah,
wow, okay.
So I ended up on every TV station in America and Canada and had this ridiculous thing where I was syndicated across every Fox News and CBNC or whatever it is in America, and
Wow.
it was absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
And I give that away for free. I should probably start charging for something in life at some point. But it became a really incredible global community, which
Yeah.
it definitely didn't set out to be.
Yeah.
You know, I drunkenly wanted to start one cookery class, and here I am I just finished my new cookbook yesterday, which is out worldwide again next year, and sometimes you just think, how does this happen?
It must be such a nice feeling to know, though, that your cause is positive and you're affecting people positively around the world.
Yeah, it's also overwhelming though. There's a
Sure.
huge amount of what we do that ends up in death. You know, a lot of people
Sure.
don't survive, and we get a lot of emails from people's families saying how the last few months they spent with either at our cookery classes or using our recipes were like the really pivotal moments of them, and that is overwhelming. That's quite a lot to deal with. So it's both positive and negative in the fact that what other business do you lose people so often in?
Whilst doing something positive at the same time.
So it's a weird juxtaposition between the two, and Life Kitchen always we have to be quite careful on that emotionally.
Sure.
But then I always just try to remember it's just food. It's just food and it's just people, and we're just doing what we can.
So I guess on that, is there a nice story that you remember from your experience?
There's one I talk about all the time, and it's in my first cookbook, and it was... I'm from the northeast of England, and I was in Newcastle hosting a class, and this old man came in, 75. He's called Mike Richards, and he was like, I'm only here because my wife has made me come. She's absolutely tried everything, and it's not working at home, and I can't find anything that I enjoy. And he was like, I don't want to be here. You look about 12. You don't know what you're doing. And I was like, why don't we just try it?
He said you look about 12.
Yeah, I do look about 12.
That's me.
And I thought that was a compliment. I took it really well.
Yeah.
We sat down and we made the first recipe, which is pineapple tacos, which is one of my most famous recipes. And basically, you slice a whole pineapple into a round, and you use that as the taco shell. So the round of the pineapple becomes the taco shell. And there's an enzyme in pineapple that promotes saliva production, loads of science stuff that you can find out about in other ways. But basically, he bit into it and cried, and I dedicated that recipe to him in the book. He died now, actually, but his wife and I still talk all the time, and that was a really pivotal moment in his life because he took a chance on us to teach him something.
Sure. Yeah.
Which was scary because that man has lived a whole life. Before I waltzed in and was like, let's try these recipes, but it was just so nice to have this change with him, and for him to understand that there is still a glimmer of hope, even if it doesn't feel like that.
That's wonderful. That's a lovely story. So one more question. So what is something you've learned from your journey working with individuals battling cancer?
It's a good question, and I think I've learned far too much to ever be able to pick one thing, but basically you have to remember how lucky we are just to have health in any way. But also I've learned not to be too sad for people living with cancer, because so often they're just living their lives. This has happened to them, they deal with it, and they don't want to be babied or they're still living their lives, and it's the unfortunate part about life. I mean, I went to my 50th funeral last week, and I'm 30 years old because of what I'm in, but it's really made me really appreciate life.
Yeah.
And understand the power of humans and community and connectivity and being together, and of course really good food.
Of course, yeah. Well, I guess that can only inspire you to want to do it more and encourage more and come up with new ideas and different ways of, I guess, because that's an interesting point. I guess it's hard, isn't it? You can't just cater for someone. They want to live their life, but at the same time you're offering them something that gives them opportunities to do exciting things and try something different.
We often, I think it's very special because Life Kitchen, we try to pop up in lovely places. We used to have a residency at Duck and Waffle in the city.
Oh, nice.
So our cooking classes would be 50 floors in the sky. And 87-year-old Doris, who's got cancer, has never been there.
Yeah,
and we'd always start with a glass of champagne, and it just feel like this luxury brand at a free price point is what I always used to call Life Kitchen. Didn't really work for the finances of Life Kitchen. I never really cared about that, and I never really will. We're about delivering experiences, having a good time, because you've got to realise that life is precious, food is precious, people are precious, delivering it. When delivering what we do will always come above that for me.
Fantastic.